Welcome to Business Spotlight on Money Radio WPSE. Business Spotlight is heard weekly at this time on 1450 AM and 107.1 FM. Today's guest is Jeremy Chaffee, Director of Domestic Operations at Logistics Plus. Jeremy, how long have you been with Logistics Plus, and what role do you play for the company as its Director of Domestic Operations?
I've been with the company 18 years, started back in 2000. I help oversee pretty much both our contract freight management and the domestic North American freight brokerage side of our business. Work here from our headquarters, also touch with some of our other North American offices for business development, business management, bring in new customers, help manage their existing accounts. Wear a lot of hats, but tie our brokerage and freight management business together for the company.
Can you give us a background of your history at Logistics Plus?
I was hired back in 2000. The company wasn't even quite 4 years old back when I started. We were still all in one room over at GE Transportation on Building 14. We had just won our second and third customer in Lord Corporation and Ameridrives, and I was the big hiring boom to try to backfill the positions as we were going to be moving people into our new positions over there. It was our first LP growth spurt, I think, that I was hired in. I've got to see a lot of changes over the years. I think Jim said I was about the 20th person he had ever hired at the time. Maybe it wasn't even that, but I was hired back then to manage our Mexico logistics team, moving freight primarily in and out of Mexico for GE, moving locomotive fuel tanks for GE out of southern Mexico, along with a lot of other components, and gone from there. We spent about 10 years on site at GE handling Mexico and domestic operations for them. I've worked in the freight forwarding aspects of their company too over the years. Done a lot of implementing our international TMS and domestic TMS systems, managed a lot, taken a lot of operational roles, spent a lot of time the last 10 years working on our domestic brokerage products, focusing on developing our truckload tool, our truckload offerings, our 3 and 4 PL service offerings, and really in the last several years have really focused more on actually trying to have less and less of a daily operations role and really kind of pulling back and managing the general business as we've grown and to cover all the new business we've brought on board in the last several years.
In the beginning, you were a small group of people that had faith in Logistics Plus. Can you tell us a little bit about what that was like in the beginning?
We literally fit in one room. I sat at a desk 15 feet away from Jim Berlin, as pretty much everybody in the whole office sat at a desk within 15 feet of Jim Berlin. I can remember Jim hiring me and said, if we're looking for a place with a lot of stability and a firm outlook and knowing where we were going to be in 5 years, a good 5-year plan, that this was not the place to work, that we could very well be bankrupt in 2 years. But if we wanted to wager a little bit, and he thought we could make this a go, and we were in for a fun ride, and if I was willing to take a gamble with him, that we'd have a fun ride together. And I think he delivered on that, and it's definitely been a fun ride for the last 18 years I've been with the company. It definitely has been a fun ride, up and down.
What are electronic logging devices, and why are they such a hot topic?
There's been some very high volatility in the domestic trucking market right now, and ELDs are taking a lot of blame for that. Electronic logging devices took effect in December of 2017. The federal requirements that require truckers to keep their personal logs in electronic format rather than the traditional paper format, and it reconciles those data with GPS and the transponder data from the truck. And it essentially makes it much more difficult for drivers or trucking companies to take any liberties with the hours of service that a driver is doing behind the wheel. And it's one of the impetuses for some of the sharp rate increases we've seen since last fall, as companies are claiming loss of productivity as drivers are not logging as many hours during the week in moving freight.
With the ELDs, it would seem that the technology would make things more efficient, right?
The thing is, the old paper system, by today's standards, is fairly archaic. Drivers had a lot of ways to get around the law. The joke in the industry is that you always kept 3 logbooks in the truck, and you had 2 stashed under the seat and 1 that you handed the DOT when you got pulled over. You had different ways of doctoring those books to make sure you were in compliance, which was the big push for the federal government to get those electronic logs established for safety reasons. So the argument is that now, because of the rigidity of it, you have your strict 11 hours behind the wheel and your strict 3 hours that you're allowed dock time that day. You have specific times that you are required to be behind the wheel no matter what kind of shape. And if you're fatigued or being pushed or just need a break, you're on the clock now. And whether you feel safe or not to be behind the wheel, according to the clock, you need to be running. And a lot of veteran drivers will argue that now that you are on an electronic log, you have no liberty to be the captain of your own ship, to realize that you need to pull over and take a half-hour nap or to rest for an hour and make it back up tonight when the traffic's a little bit lighter.
When did these laws go into effect?
These were actually laws that were voted on several years ago under the Obama administration. The rules have been on the books, but the laws took place, I believe it was December 15th, 2017. And currently, we have graded implementations of severity. If drivers are pulled over and caught using the old paper logs or caught in some form of non-compliance, the fines are now going up in severity for not being in compliance. So they're laws that were voted into effect federally a couple years ago, but are just now becoming the law of the land.
What other things are you seeing in the industry right now that are affecting trucking capacity and rates?
Probably fall of 2017, we saw some sharp industry increases in domestic trucking rates, both in truckload and less than truckload. It was kind of several factors coming together, I think. If you remember, we had several natural disasters. You had hurricanes and wildfires coupled with a very strong winter, being coupled with the ELD argument and an ongoing driver shortage. Fewer and fewer young people are choosing over-the-road trucking as a career path anymore. And as truck drivers become more and more of a commodity and companies struggle to find good quality insurable drivers, the short haul companies offering very good competitive jobs, and a lot of the people who would be over-the-road truck drivers traditionally now can get jobs with their local companies and get home every night and sleep in their own beds. And it's really leaving a lack of people who want to drive over the road. And coupled with an economy that is starting to come back has created a perfect storm in trucking rates that has just continued to kind of build steam since Q3 of 2017 and is still building. And I think we've seen volatility in the market that we haven't seen for almost a decade. And I think we're going to continue to see through at least through spring of this year. As we get through the coming weeks, we'll continue to drive rates up, is my prediction. And we may see some ebbing after that. A lot of drivers were displaced when the price of per barrel fell and so many companies suspended drilling operations. If that comes back, that's going to suck far more drivers back out of the over-the-road market. But if oil and gas drilling is starting to recover, and if you see fracking and drilling operations recover, I could see even more climb in the rates if that were to happen this year. So it really has been a perfect storm, and it could very well keep going throughout 2018.
The trucking industry has changed over the years, hasn't it?
If you just look at the trucks driving down the highway, for a lot of years you saw all these trucking companies advertising their transportation services on the sides of their trucks. And anymore, all these trucking companies are no longer, by and large, not promoting their trucking services. They're offering recruiting posters on the sides of their trucks. A lot of trucking companies are making conscious decisions to scale back the freight they are taking to go after more profitable business, less business. Because at the end of the day, most companies now are dependent on an owner-operator fleet. Drivers are very free to leave one trucking company and go haul for another. Even so-called asset-based carriers, if they're not paying their owner-operator drivers a good prevailing wage, they are usually very free to pull up routes and go to the trucking company down the road that is.
How does Logistics Plus work with its customers to manage freight and rates when truck capacity is tight?
We are lucky enough to have a very large network of carriers and a lot of relationships in the industry. You still look for backhaul opportunities and ways to work with the trucking companies that are still trying to fill the needs of your vendors. It's important to treat our vendors as our customers as well. We need to build relationships with our carriers that we are giving them what they need as well as our customers, and to build those bridges. We also work with our customers to try to come up with mode shifts, other ways of optimization, better ways to fill out trailers, better pack your materials so you're not taking up as much space on the truck, better route optimizations. Can you get more freight or run the route shorter, get more freight on fewer stops or on a more direct route? You can't always avoid the cost per mile increase that we're seeing in a market like this, but you can still find ways to optimize and control your costs. And sometimes through smarter logistics and other supply chain shifts, still find reductions in your total supply chain spend.
You really are superior problem solvers, aren't you?
I think you have to be. I think markets like this are a perfect example of that. You have to be a value add for your customer. You have to be a solutions provider. It's not enough just to be a broker or just to be a reseller. The days of just being able to broker backhaul freight is not enough to keep a company in business and successful anymore. We have a very large gamut of services, and we have a lot of customers that are looking for far different services than they've traditionally come and looked to us for.
The North American Division, or NAD as you call them, is a group that helps customers with domestic and cross-border transportation. How is this group staffed, and how do they work with customers to help them manage their freight shipping?
Our North America division, we call it our NAD. I think we have about probably 15 people on site here now in our core group. While everybody's cross-trained and we wear a lot of hats, we more or less split them down the middle as you have a group dedicated to our less than truckload, our LTL team, which really works with our online shipping platform and with our customers direct through our network of 30, 40 LTL service providers and our online shipping tools to distribute anywhere from 1 to 10 pallet shipments throughout the US, Canada, and Mexico. And that team is probably 8 people right now. And then we have probably 7 people on our truckload team right now that are really more for our dedicated common carriers looking for backhaul opportunities, flatbed, van load, specialized equipment, also our expedite small vehicle cargo van, sprinter van, straight trucks. They also do a lot of actually partial loads as well, where you may take that 10 or 11 pallet LTL shipment and find that we can consolidate it on to a truckload from point to point and minimize some of the transloading and help fill out a truck. Another way we can help our carriers out, help them fill a truck that may already be going in a direction, build a little revenue for our truckers, and save some few extra dollars for our customers as well.
Can you talk a little about technologies your NAD group uses to manage transportation? Are any of these tools available to your customers?
Yes, we're lucky enough here. We've got a really good team of on-site developers. Our primary tool is eShip Plus. It's our in-house developed transportation management system, or TMS. It is first and foremost a less than truckload management tool. Internally, our operations team and externally, our customers can log in. It's internet-based. You can quote your pallet shipments, make your bookings, schedule your shipments, print your bills of ladings, packing lists, and other essential documents. Schedule your carriers to come in, pick up, track your shipments, and manage all your account billings all from that system. And that is both on the front end facing our customer, and the back end is the same tool that our own operations people are using on the back end. It's also the same tool that our truckload operations people use as well. We use it for quoting purposes. Our customers can send truckload quotes to our operations team. Also use it for tracking purposes. We use it for communication purposes with our truckload providers. We have integrations that allow us to, on expedited and special loads, to do cell phone tracking. So we can actually link up to our drivers' cell phones and get transponder messages to track drivers through to route and into destination. It's been developed in-house. Our old team of developers here on the second floor. The new update should be coming out end of this year, beginning of next. eShip Plus has been our flagship domestic software for really the last 12 years, maybe even a little more now.
Do you have any new technologies coming up?
One of our newer technologies is really kind of geared more toward our freight management customers rather than our transactional brokerage, is mylogisticsplus.net. As we kind of mentioned, our customers are really looking for more than just movement of freight now. Movement of data and moving of information has really become just as important as the movement of freight. mylogisticsplus.net is essentially a cloud-based middleware environment that we've developed in-house that takes eShip Plus and some of our other internal systems, CargoWise, MyWorld Plus, some of our other internal systems, and ties them in with our various vendor tracking data, and also integrates our customers' ERP systems and shipping modules and can tie them. We can make customized portals that brings all that data together into one place and manage it from one centralized dashboard, both operationally and for business reporting reasons. It's newer technology geared toward our contract 3PL, 4PL management type customers. And it's great. It is completely customizable and it's different for each customer. We're truly unique in the industry of what we're doing.
Advancements in technology at Logistics Plus makes it easier to serve your clients, doesn't it?
Yes, it definitely makes it easier to serve your clients, but I think it also sets a bar that needs to be reached. Companies right now generally are suffering from a proliferation of IT systems and an overwhelming amount of data. And logistics has become more in supply chain management, whereas so much of the last 18 years of what I've done here is focused on the movement of freight. Now has become the control and the movement of that data. Companies are getting supply chain data from their manufacturers, from their vendors, from their purchase order management systems, from all their service providers, their freight forwarders, their warehouses. And it's all getting thrown from different systems and it cannot be captured into one place. And they're looking toward their freight management partners to try to make sense of all this disjointed data. So I would say it's easier, but it's also in some ways created challenges we've never seen before. It's great to have instant access to global positioning data of where a shipment is on the ocean or on a highway on I-90 out west. It's great, but the same deal, when you multiply that by hundreds of thousands of shipments, it can become overwhelming. Or hundreds of thousands of pieces of inventory in a warehouse, the amount of data points that you need to order and silo for a customer can become daunting. So I think that's where we're still learning as a company how to do that. And I think most companies are dealing with that. We've really had to become a lot more data guys here in the last couple years.
Either domestically or globally, are you seeing any other trends in supply chains and logistics right now?
Yeah, as far as the freight management goes, like we just touched on, this concept of control tower logistics, it's taking all this data and putting it together in one control tower onto one dashboard where you can both operationally manage all the aspects of your supply chain and report on it and measure it from one point. It's really become the trendy tag word in supply chain management. And I think it will continue to be for quite some time. I think in the transportation industry as a whole, we are seeing a time of overwhelming change. It's been a very cool time, and I'm not sure if any of us know exactly where it's going. I can liken it to kind of our own growth over the years. When I came into the company, we had just gotten our second and third customer. We were very based in heavy industrial manufacturing. We had the GEs and the Lord corporations. We were in precision machining and tool and die and so many of the industries that helped build this area and continue to drive this area. And that's still very much at the core of our business. We depend on that. But as things have grown anymore, we're seeing new logistics models emerging in the last several years. And with the Amazons and the Walmarts and the Home Depots changing the nature of the logistics industry, and now we're getting fulfillment logistics and business to door models that are constantly evolving and changing. We're seeing some really neat things that are moving very fast. Our biggest, newest accounts we've seen in the last couple of years have been WeWork, which is shared office space globally, which didn't exist 5 years ago, and a supply chain model that didn't really exist 5 years ago. Marrying together procurement and warehousing and distribution and an inventory management that didn't exist 5 years ago that we've had to kind of reimagine. Google is another newest customer, moving Pixel 2 phones and servers and hardware. And Google is a great big name, but not one that you connect with the movement of cargo or the movement of freight. But they do. They're enormous in the freight world, and they're growing in the freight world. And I think Google itself was caught off guard on how much freight they are moving. And it's been great for us. We still have our roots in the heavy manufacturing and still depend on, but we are really adapting to the new emerging models of logistics, and it's new and inventive, and it's been a very fun time to be in logistics and fun time to be in Logistics Plus, that we're getting an opportunity to work on such a diverse customer base and for such a different types of customers.
As a longtime employee of the company, what has it been like working for your CEO, Jim Berlin, for all these years? Would you ever have imagined the company would be where it is today?
It's been great working here. Working for Jim is wonderful. Everybody who knows him knows he's a type A entrepreneur, mile a minute, very inspiring, pure energy, pure entrepreneurial energy, and has pushed me to be a better person than I knew I could be, and really deserves the credit for bringing the company where we are. The second part of the question is if I would have imagined the company would be where it is today. I think I can safely say yes. Without sounding conceited, I could safely say this company was either going to grow very big or it was going to go down in flames. It goes back to, like I said when we began, Jim said that if you wanted a place of stability, Logistics Plus wasn't it. We were either going to win big or we were going to lose big. Jim's an all or nothing type of guy, a go big or go home. I think Jim has done a great job of surrounding the company with people with a very high level of dedication, with people who really strive to be the best at what we do. I know our motto is passion for excellence, but there really is a passion here of people who really want to be better at what we do than anybody else. And I think when you take that kind of commitment and passion and customer service and you couple it with that kind of drive and entrepreneurial spirit, you build an environment where good things can happen. And I think we were lucky enough that some of the bigger wagers paid off. Some of the mistakes didn't bury us over the years. They weren't all wins, but you get over the mistakes and you keep going on. And I think we've got more mistakes to come in our future, but our wins will outdo our defeats. And we continue to bring on new young talent that have been great. We're bringing on more millennials. I don't know why they seem to get a bad rap. We've got some really great young talent coming on board who are very motivated and work very hard. I haven't seen any diluting of talent here in the halls, and with a little bit of luck, we'll continue to evolve as the industry evolves. I'm hoping we'll be around here for another 20 years.
Thanks for listening to Business Spotlight on Money Radio WPSE.